Today we'll be talking about setting up shop, and setting up shop, this also applies to mobile detailers. So a lot of the principles are the same for everyone, and at any point, if you have a question, please stop me and answer. I've only got about 10 minutes worth of material, and we're supposed to be here for 45, so I really appreciate questions. Other than that, setting up shop is as much of a mindset as it is a physical operation. It's looking at your shop in a way that you want to be as efficient as you can. You want that shop to work for you. You're not working for the shop. You want the shop to work for you and facilitate the job for your employees. First thing we need in a shop, heating, air conditioning. So, maybe not in Florida. Well, tomorrow it's supposed to be almost freezing here, but those of us that come from up north, heating is a very important thing. Those from down south, air conditioning is a very important thing. And if you've been in the northeast or the southeast in the summer, you definitely know you need air conditioning for your employees to work comfortably and efficiently. So if air conditioning is a possibility for your shop, definitely it's something you want to do. The next thing, and probably one of the most important things, is lighting. A lot of shops that we go into are very, very underlit. The lighting is one of the most important aspects of it, and you'll have arguments with electricians on a regular basis because they want to put in lighting that's maybe 5,000 Kelvin. In the detailing industry, 6,500 K is by far 6,000 to 6,500 K. So if you're going LED, it's normally 6,000. If you're going fluorescent, 65 is what you need for best lighting. And the older we get, the more lighting we need. So the young kids can have their black walls in their shops. Those of us that have passed the age of 40, we want white walls, we want white floors, we want a white ceiling, and we want as many lights as you can possibly get. We had our last shop was 6,000 square feet. We had 465 T5 HOs on the ceiling, and it still wasn't bright enough. But we also had 8-foot by 10-foot windows spread throughout the shop, and the garage doors open when we could. So natural lighting, if you can get it, is even better. Especially in the detailing world, your customer, when they're looking at their car, it's not under fluorescent light, it's not with a scan grip light, it's not with a 747 landing light pointing at it, it's in the natural sunlight. So the more natural or the closest we can get to natural sunlight in our shops, the better it is. I know there's one gentleman here from the PDR world. Is anybody else from the PDR world? Okay, so PDR as well. You guys need more of a pointed light source, obviously, and you have your boards that you put on the vehicle. But even in our shop, we had our PDR tech in there, and he appreciated the lighting in our shop, that we had an ample amount. When a customer looked at our shop, they thought they were looking at an operating room, and that's the look we were going for. The other aspect of shop is just organization. Now, a lot of people have a struggle with organization, and I've always been a proponent of having just one horizontal surface in the shop, and that's the floor. Everything else, so workbenches, cabinets, everything. The less you can have in your shop, the better it is. A lot of shops we go into, they have what I like to refer to as the shelf. So they have a shelf full of products, and that shelf, the products sit there, they collect dust. As detailers, we like to try things. Oh, I'll try this. They buy a big bottle of it, and the gallon sits on the shelf for the rest of their life, or until they throw it out 10 years later. If you have employees, that shelf is a very daunting thing. It's a shelf that when you tell your employee to wax a car, hopefully you're not using wax anymore, you're using ceramic coatings, but anyways, you tell your employee to wax a car, that employee, if they go to the shelf and there's 8 different waxes to choose from, which one did you tell them to use? And there's a good chance you didn't tell them to use any, you just said wax a car. So that becomes a big problem for your employee if they have to make decisions. And the better your shop is set up, the less decisions your employees need to make, and the less decisions your employees need to make, the happier they are as employees. And also the easier it is on you to communicate to your employee what they need to do when they only have one thing to choose from. So if you're the owner of a shop with employees, having the shelf, you might want to have that shelf in your office, but out in the shop floor where your employees are working, that's where you'll put the one product that you've chosen for whatever it is. The other thing I mentioned, no horizontal surfaces. We all have a tendency to collect things, and that workbench that you have, because we're not, I think I'm having a technical difficulty back there. But anyways, we have 2 cameras set up, so no need to worry. It'll come back to me eventually. Anyways, when we're setting up a shop, the horizontal surfaces tend to collect stuff. And, oh, it's back. So when they collect things, it's things that we take out of a car. It's tools. How many, we all spend time looking for the bottle. Whatever the bottle of whatever we're looking for, if we don't have it handy, we might have set it on a shelf, we might have set it on a bench, we might have set it somewhere, and we spend time looking for it. That's lost time. Time is something you can never get back. We can buy just about anything in this world. Time is the one thing we can't purchase. So having your shop set up to not waste time is a great thing. The one thing I like to work, mobile detailers versus shop-based. So we have 1 mobile, okay. 2, okay, good. So same thing in your mobile units. It's organizing it for safety. It's organizing it for efficiency. Having all your products ready to go, knowing exactly where they go. And even though you're mobile, you may want to, if you have the room in your unit, you may want a cart. And in shops, I love having carts. The cart is what every employee has. So if you have multiple employees, Harbor Freight, they make these beautiful carts. They're all different colors. I think they have 8 different colors you can get. And you can have 1 color for each employee. And then you get electrical tape or duct tape or paint if you want. And all the bottles that go with that cart are identified to that cart by color. So if you have your red employee walking around with a green bottle, there's a problem. Where's your bottle? And if you have the green employee walking around with a red bottle, well, same deal. So having individual carts for each employee with everything they need on that cart, again, saves time. They're not walking back and forth to a storage shelf. They're not walking back and forth to a bench or whatever. Everything they have is with them, and it's within arm's reach as they're working. For polishers, we had 3 polishers on every cart. So we had 2 DAs and a rotary, and the pads we were using, we only have 3 pads in the shop, they were on those machines. So instead of unplugging and plugging in a machine, instead of removing pads from the machines, we just grabbed the machine with the appropriate pad and started working. So yes, you have a little more investment in tooling, but your tools are going to last longer because you're not using them as much, and your Velcro is going to last longer, and the pads are going to last longer. So you don't need to be switching pads and unplugging and plugging all the time. And having the tools plugged into the cart, and then the extension cord going from the cart to the wall, that means the cart will follow the employee. The more you can train that cart to follow the employee, the better it is. And it takes 2 to 3 weeks to train a cart to follow an employee, but once you've trained that cart, they work very well. Any questions so far? You're a quiet bunch. I know it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So, any West Coasters here? No? Okay, because it's 5 o'clock in the morning for them. So they're still comfortably in bed. The other aspect when we're setting up a shop is, do we have a place for our customers? And I see a lot of shops being set up, they have these beautiful waiting lounges. You don't want your customer waiting around in your shop, ideally. You want a nice area to receive your customers, to grab their keys and then send them on their way. If they're sitting there, they're wasting your time, they're going to be talking to your reception person, they're going to be wanting to sneak around the car, seeing what's happening. For us, we used loaner cars. So the customer would come in, here are the keys, thank you very much, we'll call you when it's done, or we'll schedule a time to come pick it back up. And a loaner car is something that becomes a very good tool for you as you're working as well. The loaner car is not an expensive thing. You can lease cars, well, not new ones these days, but when things get back to normal, you'll be able to lease a car for 150 bucks a month. You don't need an expensive car. You don't need a fancy car. You need a car with an automatic transmission, 4 doors, air conditioning, and power windows. So just about every car on the road these days has those things. We had everything from a smart car to a Kia Rio to a C-Class Mercedes, some SUVs. We had a variety of vehicles as loaner vehicles, whatever was on sale when we were leasing them. And you can get a very low mileage lease because your loaner cars are not going to be going a long distance. Our loaner cars average 5,000 miles a year, so they weren't going very far. People are just going home, going to work, and then coming back. So it's not a big problem with that. And having the loaner car, it's reducing an objection to the sale. When your customer is coming to you, if you can say, yeah, we can do that right now. Here are the keys to the loaner car. See you later. They can't go, oh, I can't get a ride. I don't like using Uber. I don't know how to use Uber. I don't use taxis, whatever. Every time we can reduce the objection to a sale, we have more chance of getting the sale. And the loaner vehicle is one of them. So it's a tool. It's not expensive. Depending on your insurance company, for us, we couldn't charge the customer to use the car. If we charged the customer to use the car, then it became a rental car and we needed a whole different insurance policy. So if you're doing it as a loaner car, you can do it. And as I said, the $150 a month, just raise your prices. It's not a hard thing to do. Customers are, especially in this day and age, everywhere we go, prices are going up. Who raised their prices January 1st? Excellent, excellent. So, and you can do it again March 1st, won't hurt anything. But spring is coming. Detailers tend to forget to raise prices when they should. Our suppliers are all charging us more. Chemical costs are going up. And the value in detailing is being seen more and more by customers. So, but back to our main subject, setting up a shop. The other aspect of setting up a shop, like I said, is organization. We want to be as organized as possible. We want to make it as easy as possible. For us in our wash bays, we had 4 pressure washer guns in the wash bay. We had 2 that were hooked up to a steam unit and 2 that were hooked up to a low pressure washer. And by low pressure, we had 1,500 PSI and half a gallon per minute. We're not necessarily cleaning farm equipment, and if you are, you may want to get a 3rd pressure washer. Well, actually the steam one does a great job for that. But you don't need high pressure. And the lower your pressure, the less overspray you're going to have. So the water is going to be contained closer to the vehicle. You're going to consume less water. If you have a water meter, that's a great thing. If you don't have a water meter, think of the environment. But nonetheless, it just makes your life easier having a lower pressure. We've been to shops that have the 4 gallons per minute, 5,000 PSI washer, and you go to spray out a door jamb, and you're spraying out the front door jamb and you get the back seat wet. There's so much pressure. By lowering the pressure, you become more efficient. And if you've done a comparison, moldings on a car, spray them out with a very high pressure washer, you'll think you're done. Take a low pressure washer and go back over them, you'll get a lot more stuff out from behind that molding than you do with the high pressure. It tends to bounce and not get in there and rinse it out. So even a hose will do a better job than a very high pressure washer. So we had the wands on either side of the car. On either side of the car, we had towels, we had the chemicals, so that 1 or 2 technicians could work on the car at the same time and get the job done. There was never a hose crossing over the vehicle. There was never an air line crossing over the vehicle. So we have less chance of scratching. We have less chance of abusing the vehicle. Our pressure washer lines and our air lines were not long enough to touch the floor. So they were on rails, they slid back and forth along the car, and we could never have a hose that got driven over. We could never have an employee leaving a hose on the floor getting dirty. Same thing with our vacuum lines. They were suspended on springs. They would come down, they could vacuum the car. As soon as they let go of an air line, a pressure washer line, or a vacuum line, it would go back to the wall and stay there. So it made life a lot easier for the employees, and it made it for a shop that was cleaner, more organized. A lot of us and we started with the same thing. We had the reels that you pull on the reel like in the mechanic shop. They pull it out at the beginning of the day, and it might go back in at the end of the day. The rest of the day, it's sitting on the floor, getting dirty, getting run over, being in the way, being a trip hazard. So those are all things that when you're looking at your shop, you need to think of. Another thing for efficiency and in your shop, if you have security cameras, actually look at the footage, and not in terms of, is my employee stealing something from me, but more in terms of, is my employee stealing time from me? And by stealing time, meaning they're wasting time. How many times are they walking back and forth to that cart? How many times are they walking back and forth to the storage cabinet? How many times are they going around a car to wash it? Those are all things we need to look at and analyze and figure out. When we had our shop, my employees used to hate it, but I'd sit in the corner and just watch them work. And they knew that some process was about to change when I did that, because I was always looking for time. Where are they wasting time? And they're not necessarily wasting time, but they're losing time. And if we can make it the most efficient possible for them, they become happier employees. They become more productive employees. Not all of us want to own a business. Not everybody in this world wants to be an entrepreneur. And some people are very happy being employees. Our top employee that was with us for 20 years, he used to run a shop. He used to own a detailing shop. He loved being an employee. He loved that at 5 o'clock, he could walk out the door and not have to think about anything until 8 o'clock the next morning. So that was one aspect that you need to consider, that you need to work on, efficiency and setting up your shop for efficiency. So a lot of things, like I mentioned, the carts are great. Who uses a 2-bucket wash method? Okay, we used a 2-bucket wash method in our shop as well, 1 bucket on either side of the car. We use rinseless. And if you're doing this for profit, get rid of the soap. Soap is, I have a little thing against soap, but anyways, it's a waste of your time. A rinseless is a much more efficient way of cleaning a car once you learn the process. The other thing that's needed in a shop, especially when you have employees, is a standard operating procedure manual. Now, who has SOPs? Excellent. We'll pick on you, sir, since you're one of the last ones here. No. Anyways, for the beginning that you missed, all those that came in late, because I know it was hard getting the badges and stuff, this will be on my YouTube channel, so Detailers Business Academy. So what you missed, you'll be able to pick up there. But what was my question? I was about to... Yes, so your SOP for washing a car, how many pages is it?
Just the wash procedure?
Yeah. Okay. So let me go into SOPs a little bit. Your SOP is a little light. First of all, your SOP needs to identify where all the safety items in your shop. So where's the emergency eye wash station? Where is the emergency exit, fire extinguisher, all of that. And that's a copy and paste from one SOP to another. So once you've done that page, you're good to go. The next part of the SOP, you need visual, you need flowchart, and you need written, because everybody learns differently. And having the three gives that opportunity to learn for everyone. For a wash procedure, and everybody should have a wash procedure, SOP. First of all, you need to identify what the employee is using. So you need to tell them on shelf A, and a photo of the shelf, there is product there. And you need to identify the product with a picture as well, so they know exactly where that product is. And then it needs to be diluted in the bucket. Where's the bucket? You need to identify where the bucket is. Then how much do they put in the bucket? The quantity needs to be identified. From there, what wash media are you using? Well, the wash media needs to be located and identified that it goes in the bucket. How much water do you put in the bucket? Is it half full? Is it completely full? Is it overflowing? And do you put the soap or rinseless in before or after the water? All those things need to be identified. So you need to think of your standard operating procedure as you have a 12-year-old walking in your shop. They have never seen a car in their life and they've never been in your shop. They should be able to turn the lights on, find all the products, know where they are, know what they're for, have access to the SDS sheets, and know what to do with them. And then washing the car. Where do you start? Where do you stop? Do you rinse it first? Do you not rinse it? Do you rinse from the top down, from the bottom up? Do you do the wheels? So all of that needs to be identified. You need to literally be able to take someone off the street, give them the standard operating procedure, and they should be able to do the same job that you do, if they know how to read. The other thing is you want the visual aspect of that as well. So having pictures and identifying where everything is and where everything goes when they're done. Once you have that, and yes, it's a lot of work, but it becomes a lot easier once you've done one or two of them, because a lot of things become copy and paste, so it makes life easier. Once you have that, your employees need to have it as well. It's not just for you. And when you hire an employee, you give them access to your SOPs electronically and a physical copy. With their physical copy, there should be a sheet at the very back of it. That sheet is, I have read, I have understood, and will implicate or put into practice the SOPs, and have them sign it. That way, when they're climbing on the tire of an SUV to wash the roof instead of using the ladder you've provided, and they fall off, they can't go back after you. So it becomes your liability policy as well. By providing them in the SOP all the SDS sheets, in the electronic version, in the written version, you can say the SDS sheets are in a binder located here with the picture. So they have access to that, but they also have access to the electronic ones. And whenever you make a change in your shop, as detailers, we're always changing things, trying to make it better, or using the latest and greatest chemical. When that happens, you need to update your SDS sheets. So you update the physical versions, you give a update 6.9 to your employee, and also the electronic version. And when you update the electronic version, you send an email to your employee. With them, they must send a return email that I have seen, I have read, and I understood the changes to the SOP. So writing an SOP is an integral part of having a shop. And if you're alone in your shop, you still want that SOP. Because one day you may hire an employee, and that's already done. Now, another aspect of that is having an employee manual. If you have an employee manual, and who of us has worked for a very large corporation where you get the thick manual at the beginning, right? Did you read the whole thing? No, nobody does. But having that and having it for the employee indicates to them how serious you are as an entrepreneur, how serious this business is. And having that employee manual, again, is part of your anti-liability lawsuit deal. I'm Canadian, we don't have that, but I know you guys have these lawyers down here. We travel around the US and we see signs on the side of the highway for lawyers all the time. We don't have that in Canada. But nonetheless, having that safety net for you is a great thing. And it also shows your employee the seriousness of business that you are. There are some people that have never seen an employee manual in their life. When they get it, it's like, oh, wait a minute, this guy is actually serious. And when you're setting up a shop, employees, even though you're alone now, you'll want to set up your shop for employees eventually. Employees are your gateway to scaling. Employees are your gateway to ulcers and loss of hair, but employees are your gateway to profitability as well. As a lone operator, once you've reached 500,000 in a year, that's about your max that you can do. If you bring an employee in, now you're at $1 million. If you bring 2 employees in, you're at 1.5. And those are numbers that are attainable. Hopefully everybody here does ceramic coatings. If you work 200 days a year, ceramic coating, you do 1 a day at $1,800, which is an industry average these days, it's $375,000. Actually $374. But so it works out that if you just concentrate on that, you can actually have a very good business. Now, there are a lot of other aspects to detailing. One aspect of detailing that unfortunately most detailers lose money on is interiors. and they willingly lose money because they price themselves way too low. A lot of detailers will do a combination package, so interior, exterior. And the car could come in with 3 inches of mud on it, or it could come in straight from the car wash. It's going to be a 10-minute difference in washing the exterior of that vehicle. Now, the same vehicle could come in that the person, there's never been anybody sitting in the back seat, just the driver. They've never went to a McDonald's drive-through. They don't eat in their car. They get it washed every week. Or the family living in the SUV or the minivan. That, there's going to be a huge time difference in doing one or the other. But you have a package, and you sell them that package regardless whether it's the minivan or the old retired guy that's just gone to church on Sunday and the grocery store on Thursday. Separating your interior from your exterior packages makes it so you can make your interior profitable. And there's no reason that if you're making $200 an hour doing a ceramic coating, that you shouldn't be making $200 an hour doing an interior. And if you're not, then stop doing interiors and concentrate on doing more paint correction, ceramic coatings, or whatever is profitable. Your customer, interiors are where we get the most complaints. Interiors are where we get the most picky customers. So charge accordingly. And the customer that you're charging them $125, $200 an hour to do their interior, they're generally not going to bring you a very dirty interior, and they're generally not going to be as picky because they realize what they're paying for. And as detailers, we look at an interior, we can't just sort of half-ass it. It's very difficult for us to do so. So if your customer isn't liking your price, you can ask the customer, which half would you like me not to do? The driver's side or the passenger side? And then work from there. Interiors, like I said, they're a great way of making money if you set it up properly. They're an exceptional way of losing money if you do it like 90% of detailers in the market. And if the customer is wanting a $29.99 interior, send them to the car wash. That's their job. We should not be competing with car washes. And if you're worried about your pricing, don't be. There's nothing wrong with being the most expensive person in your area. That's actually a good thing. You'll attract a much better clientele, you'll attract cleaner cars, you'll work a lot easier, and your customers will be happier. When you're competing with the car wash, you're competing very much so with the wrong person. And as detailers, we don't want to compete with a car wash, we want to compete with other detailers. And generally speaking, there might be 20 detailers in your town. There's only 1 or 2 really good ones. So be that really good one. The one that the person with the expensive car wants to go to. The one with the person that, even though they don't have an expensive car, they want to go to you. We did numerous coatings in our shop. We tried to do at least 2 a day. And we weren't doing exotics. We were doing Honda Civics and Ford Focuses, because that's what was around our town. Our town had a median income of $28,000 a year. Meanwhile, we were doing coatings out the wazoo for the last 15 years. Because we marketed it properly, our shop was beautiful, our shop was clean, and we had everything in place to do so. And you don't need to market specifically to exotic cars, you don't need to market to expensive vehicles for coatings. People that are paying $25,000 for a car, they're putting their life savings into that car. They're stretching their budget to buy that car. The one that's buying the $300,000 car, it's just a drop in the bucket. So they have a different perspective. And if you're selling protection in your business, that is what the customer wants. Any questions, please? No? Come on. Someone has to have a question. Yes?
One comment, talking about the carts, which is a great idea. I actually, with my mobile setup, there's folding carts.
Yes.
And I got one, I've had it for 5 or 6 years now. It's held up great. But at the end of the day, it folds up, goes on the side of the van, and it's been phenomenal.
Exactly. So your employee isn't walking back and forth to the van all the time.
Locking wheels for those hilly.
Yeah, for those tilted driveways. Other little convenience items in a shop. Music. Now, today we have little earbuds that we can put in that are noise canceling. And those are actually great for you and for your employees. That way, if you like country music and your employee likes hip hop, it's not a problem. You're not competing as to who's taking control of the radio. You don't have loud music playing in the shop when a customer comes in. And if they're used properly, they actually diminish sound. So if you're polishing, if you're blowing with a tornador, those are things that the earbuds will actually control it. I wear earbuds a lot, and there's nothing playing in them. They're just there for sound control. So the earbuds are a very good thing. I mentioned ladders. You'll want a few different height ladders for different things. There's a company called Gorilla, and they sell them at Lowe's, they sell them at Home Depot. They make these beautiful platforms that are 2 feet by 2 feet, about 20 inches tall. They're great for washing SUVs. They're very solid. They have a good footing. They also make longer platforms, about 3 feet, that are folding. You can buy the cheap one at Harbor Freight for $49 that you get on, and it's sort of swaying around and you don't know if you're going to fall off it. The one that the Gorilla company, and no, I'm not sponsored, but they make a really good one. The other thing that we used a lot in our shop was a small scaffolding. So they call it Baker scaffolding. It's not a brand name, it's just a type of scaffolding. They're adjustable in height. They fold up when you're not using them. And they make it so that when you're doing paint correction on the roof of a lifted pickup truck, you can do it. When you're taking signage off of a vehicle, a van or something, it makes it easier to get to. And all those things increase safety in your shop. If you have everything in place for your employee to work safely, they will. And you know, workshop accidents are thankfully not a big problem in our industry, but the more we can reduce it, the better it is. Who has had a visit from OSHA in their shop? How did that go? Painful?
Luckily, we're pretty good, so we've had them before, but yeah, we have a body shop.
Yes.
They love the body shop.
Yeah, they love body shops. Yeah. So in the detailing industry, we're not getting hit up too much by OSHA yet, but it is coming. And you know, the harsher the chemicals, things like that the more OSHA gets interested, the bigger the business becomes, and detailers are starting to scale. They're starting to be legitimate businesses nowadays, not just someone throwing water at a car and hoping it gets clean. So OSHA is coming to us and seeing an opportunity. And that opportunity, despite what we think, is not to fine us. That opportunity is to make us better. And it's something that you can actually call OSHA and have them do a preemptive inspection of your shop. And when you call them to come do a shop or a tour of your shop, they're not going to fine you. They're going to give you suggestions, but then you're going to be on their radar. So you better implicate what they have told you. But they will go through your shop, they will make sure that you're compliant and without the fine. So you know, it's like when you buy a used RV, it's always good to have a police dog go through it just in case the previous owner was transporting things that you don't want to get caught with at the border. And those are services they're happy to provide. So it's something that you need to look at. And OSHA is happy to provide that service to come into your shop and do a preemptive check as opposed to, hi, we're here. Good luck. And when that happens, it's never a happy day. Where are we in time? Oh, good. Okay. Still have 10 minutes, so any questions? Yes.
So earlier you mentioned the 2 steamers and 2 low pressure power washers.
Right.
What kind of steamer units do you hook up that come with lines that would move like a power washer?
So they're steam pressure washers. There's a number of them on the market. The ones we had, and honestly, I forget the name of the company. No, not Hotsy, but Hotsy is a good one. They were a very low pressure, so they're 250 psi, half a gallon per minute, but 330 degrees. Yeah. Oh, Damier is the company. Yes.
You spoke about interiors earlier.
Yes.
Is there like a model or something that your shop follows that you may be able to provide to us that we can?
Yes, so for cleaning interiors, first of all, make it as efficient as you can. The less water you bring into an interior, the less water you need to remove from an interior. We rarely ever used an extractor, and too many detailers fall back on the extractor. They put too much water in the vehicle, then they have to put fans in and they're drying for days. The customer's not happy because when they get in the car, they sit on a wet seat. So the less we use an extractor, the less time we're wasting. The other aspect of that is becoming as efficient as you can doing interiors. And the best thing you can do, use your security cameras, set up a camera, and just film a detail. And then watch it with someone that is not a detailer. Have them pick you apart. Ask you, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why did you get in and out of the car 18 times? And that is a great way of increasing your efficiency. Take that video, actually watch it. You can fast forward a few things, give them some good popcorn, and make sure that they're happy, the person that's watching it with you. But having that person there that isn't a detailer, that is going to question you as to why you're doing that, will increase your efficiency. The other thing with interiors, figure out how much time it takes you and charge accordingly. And if it takes you 2 hours to do an interior, you need to start charging $250. And you'll be happy to do an interior at $250 if you're making $120 an hour. Think of your time as worth a minimum of $2 a minute. So every time you waste a minute, you've thrown $2 away. Every time your employee wastes a minute looking for something, they've thrown actually more than $2 away. You're actually throwing $4 away. Because now, if your employee wastes 10 minutes, they didn't cost you 10 minutes of their salary, they've lost you that amount of potential revenue. And that's how you need to look at it. Too many detailers, we ask them, your employee wastes 15 minutes, how much did it cost you? Oh, well, I pay him $20 an hour, it cost me $5. Wrong answer. If they were working on a project that is making you $200 an hour, you just lost $100. The $50 that they lost and the $50 in income that you could have gained. So those are different things. Who has done a cost analysis of their shop? One. Right. Okay. Cost analysis is something you should do on a regular basis. And figuring out your hourly cost is an extremely important thing to figuring out your pricing. If you don't know what your cost is, how can you be figuring out your pricing? And to figure out your cost, it's a very simple formula. You need to put down every expense you have. So that's chemicals, that's rent, marketing, lighting, electricity, you name it. Everything needs to be put down into that. And then either multiply by 12, divide it, figure it out into a monthly basis or a yearly basis. Then your wages. As a shop owner or as an entrepreneur, start yourself off at $100,000 a year and put that in there. That's part of the expenses of your shop. That is your salary. Your salary shouldn't come after everything else. Your salary should be one of the first things you put down. The next thing is profits. You need to make a profit. If you are not making a profit, you are not serving your customers well. Profits are an integral part of customer service. Because if you're not profitable, you will not be there to serve your customers when they need you the next time. So add in 30%. So once you've figured out all your costs, throw a 30% on top of that. Now that's your profits. And your salary comes before the profits. The profits belong to your business. Your salary is independent of that. And if you want to give yourself $150K or $200K a year, by all means, do it. Put it into that number, but at least start at $100K. Then from there, divide it by 1,920. Those are the number of working hours in a year. And then you'll figure out exactly what it costs you per hour. And on average, it's somewhere between $75 and $95 an hour that it's costing people. Now, you're in the body shop industry, the insurance companies give you $50 an hour. 48, yeah. Right. They get, in Canada, they give us 50. So the exchange rate, we're losing there. So they're giving you $48 an hour, but you're able to make up time. Because if you weren't making up time, you'd be losing money. So you're At the end of the year, you're probably billing out somewhere closer to 95 an hour. Yeah, that is what we need to do. And as detailers, do not sell your services on time. Sell your services on this is the price. Now, you need to identify how much time it takes you, but if you're making more than your $150 an hour, great. One service that we had in our shop was a wash, clay, and wax. That was our most popular service. One employee could do 3 cars in an hour. We charged $99. That's $300 an hour that employee was making us. We were very happy to pay that employee very well. But also, our customers were ecstatic. They got their cars back faster. They got exactly what they paid for. They were happy. They didn't know we were making $300 an hour. They thought we were making $50, because that's what consumers think a detailer is worth, is $50 an hour. So don't put on your invoice or on your estimate sheet the number of hours you're working. This is the cost for the service, and it ends there. Our customers, we'd have 20 people drop off their cars in the morning, 20 people pick them up at the end of the night. They all thought we worked on their cars all day. They were happy, we were happy. We had one customer once that was in a rush, going to a funeral, wanted his car washed, clayed, and waxed so it looked nice for the funeral. Said, not a problem, sir. 10 minutes later, his car was back. We'd put 2 employees on it. That's the only customer that ever complained about our pricing, because he figured out that 10 minutes, $100, yeah, that's $600 an hour. So he was like, you charge more than my lawyer per hour. Sylvie, who was at the counter at the time, said, yes, but your lawyer, you got a divorce. For us, you got a clean, shiny car. So don't let your customers beat you up on pricing. It's your shop. Think of it in terms of a mechanic. How much is a mechanic charging in your area? 100, 120 an hour? Plus, they're making 30 points on parts. We're not charging for parts. We're not making that 30% on parts. But when you're renting 5,000 square feet and the mechanic next door is renting 5,000 square feet, I'm pretty sure the landlord isn't charging you less because you're a detailer. The utilities are not charging you less because you're a detailer. Your insurance company isn't charging you less because you're a detailer. You're probably paying more electricity because you have more lights on the ceiling. Who here uses lifts in their shops? So, for your interior process, a scissor lift is probably the best tool you'll ever buy. People think of scissor lifts for doing exteriors, and yes, they're great for polishing a car, but when you're doing an interior, the scissor lift becomes your best friend. You're no longer kneeling beside a car. The carpet is here when you're vacuuming it. You can see under the seat. The door panel, you can adjust it to just the right height. So that low slung car, you can bring it up to a comfortable working height. So, and scissor lifts are cheap. They're like $1,500, $2,000 at most. If you have 4 workstations in your shop, put 4 of them in. It's things like that. A lot of detailers tend to live hand to mouth, waiting for the next ceramic job to be able to buy a polisher. If you're working that way, go take a business class. Don't take another class on perfecting paint and things like that. We all know how to polish paint. We all know how to clean cars. We should know how to be profitable. If you don't know your profit and loss statement off by heart, that's an issue. There's a TV show, I think it's Shark Tank. What's the first question they ask? Numbers. Do you know your numbers? And if you have a shop, if you have a business, you need to know your numbers. That's an integral part. If you do not know your numbers, you do not know your business. You don't know where you're going. You don't know how you're going to get there. You can have goals, but how are you going to attain those goals if you don't know your numbers? So numbers are a very important part of having a shop. Now we have, technically, we're past time, but I can keep you as long as I want until the next presenter comes in at 9 o'clock. So any other questions? No? Yes?
I guess real kind of high level, real quick, from an employee manual standpoint, what are some of those main topics you recommend covering?
what time they start in the morning, what happens if they're late, are they allowed to use cell phones on the job? If so, what are the constraints to using a cell phone? What happens at lunchtime? This is your cart. This is what's on your cart. This is what your cart should look like at the beginning of the day. This is what your cart should look like at the end of the day. What happens when you're sick? What happens when your child is sick? Holidays, everything. So basically everything that's related to that employee. And also in that employee manual, where are all the safety items in the shop? Where are all the security items? Where are all the chemicals located? Basically, it's a standard operating procedure for being an employee. That's how you have to look at it. So your standard operating procedure is one thing. You need to have standard operating procedure for every job, and then the employee manual. And when you're onboarding an employee manual, do not overload them with information. Having employees can be simple, and your employees should be able to do a better job than you do. And if they're properly educated, they will do a better job than you can. But another part of the SOP and the employee manual is having that progression. So you give them at the beginning, for the first week, you're going to be washing cars. Here's the SOP for washing a car. If you're able to do that at the end of the week, you maintain your employment. If you can't wash a car by yourself by the end of the week, we'll be saying goodbye. At the end of the second week, you need to be able to do this, and we'll give you the SOP for that after you've accomplished the first task. You can do this task at the end of the second week. Congratulations, you're still employed. Here's the next level. And you keep going up by that. The other thing with an employee, try not to give them a job. You want to give them a career. And a career comes with a ladder. So always have another rung for them to climb. And that last rung is replacing you as the business owner. But an employee that has a ladder to climb will want to climb the ladder. If their only hope in your business is, I'm going to be his lackey for the rest of my life, they're going to be looking for another career path. And some people want a job, most people prefer a career. And if you can offer them a career, great. And too many times we see on the Facebook groups that, how much are you paying your employees? And then it comes down, oh, $10 an hour. You're not going to get a good employee at that price range. Unless you're giving in a living wage, which means they can buy a home, they can have a car, and they can send their kids to school, you're not going to keep people around too long. And in our industry, we can afford to pay $30 and $40 an hour. Your employee cost should be about 30% of your number. So if you're charging $120 an hour, you can easily pay $40 an hour to your employees. Now, they don't get a whole 40 because we have taxes and all sorts of other stuff thrown on top of there, but your final number should end up being around 40. Now, don't start them at that. Give them a career path, give them a ladder to climb, but once they have that ladder to climb and they keep seeing that, oh, there's another rung, oh, there's another rung, get them going up that ladder. And when you start an employee, it's the same thing. Start them with, today, this week, you're going to learn how to wash a car. Don't bombard them with, you're going to be doing a ceramic coating, polishing, interiors, all that on your first day. No. Have a progression. So, anybody ever worked at McDonald's? Well, go get a job at McDonald's for a week. It's worth it. Their training process, their onboarding process is spectacular. And they're doing it with teenagers. So, if you have a teenager at home, send them to McDonald's. It's a great training. So, with that, I'll let you go. Thank you very much, everyone. As I mentioned, this will be on YouTube, so if you want to review it, go back over it. Should be on later today or as soon as I find Wi-Fi. Thank you.